Good morning again for the second time. As I said a moment ago, we are reversing order today. Congresswoman Clark has a very busy schedule being primary day. So Katherine Clark represents the 5th Congressional District of Massachusetts. Katherine's introduction to public service came at an early age, as she learned about her grandmother working at a machine shop to support the troops during World War II. She was elected in March 2008 to the Massachusetts House of Representatives and was elected to the state Senate in November 2010. In the state legislature, Katherine focused on improving the lives of the families she serves through both constituent service and focusing on issues that affect families each and every day. Her commitment to public service is driven by the idea that, despite the roadblocks, we are always moving forward towards a more perfect union. On December 10th, 2013, Katherine was sent to Washington by the people of Massachusetts' 5th Congressional District to be their voice as Congress debates the most critical issues of our time. So it is my pleasure to welcome Congresswoman Katherine Clark.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here. It is always great to be in Winthrop, and thank you, Paul, for that kind introduction. I love an introduction that mentions my grandmother, and she really was my inspiration. She was a homemaker her entire life, but always worked for her community and taught me at an early age that that's really where we start to build community, whether it's working through your church or your place of worship or your local school or your small business. It's that connection, and really that the secret of public service is you get more out of it the more you put into it. And you certainly exemplify that and your work, and I want to thank the entire board and all the members that make up the chamber, and for joining us on this early morning. It's the beginning of a long day, a primary day. I hope you all will get out and vote for your candidate of choice. But really no better way to start than coming to Winthrop and getting out of the car, smelling that ocean. It's beautiful weather, and my staff often gave me a hard time during the campaign because there were 24 cities and towns that make up the 5th Congressional District, yet I always seem to have the packet for knocking on doors for Winthrop. They're like, there's a coincidence here that, but being able to get to know Winthrop, coming through this community has been a true pleasure. And only in Winthrop, at the Senior Center, when we did our coffee, have I had my own personal song performed for me by Nancy Williams over at the Senior Center. It was slightly off color, which made me love it even more. And but I am a great admirer of the work of the Chamber of Commerce throughout the Commonwealth. And you have a vision that is unique for your town and for our families' futures. And I want to be helpful in any way I can in the work that you're doing. Having met with many families in Winthrop, I know that this is a very family-oriented, proud community. And there is a strong sense of pride in your town, in your schools, in your businesses, shops, and restaurants. And that's what makes Winthrop unique, and that's what makes this chamber strong. I also know that a vibrant small business sector is a vital part of this community and a vital part of our overall economy. You hire your neighbors. You are where our teens go for their first job and where they learn the value of hard work. And Paul Levy is here today, and I have heard many people who said they got their first job working at your hardware store. And that's the type of reputation that Winthrop has. And it's for these reasons that you are attracting more and more young families to this town. Betsy was telling me a startling and wonderful statistic about Winthrop and its growth. That in a town that is only 1.6 square miles, there are 7 second grade classrooms. And that is a wonderful indicator of the future. A family-owned and small businesses are the engine behind what is going on in Winthrop. And those second graders are the ones that are going to be our economic future. And they are the reason for our optimism and our hard work. And I am honored to represent you in the halls of Congress. It is a challenging place to be these days, but we know that there is so much that we need to do, and that the family-owned business and small businesses are a critical piece of how we continue to grow our economy and get it back on track where we want it to be. 90% of our nation's companies have fewer than 20 employees. And your work here is what is key to restoring the middle class, and I think that that is worth fighting for. So my top priority in Congress is working for an economy that works for everyone. So what does that possibly mean? And for me, I can tell you what I think it means. And that's first, we give our youngest learners and our students an opportunity for a great education. And that starts with helping families access quality childcare. Recently had a policy forum, and it was families from Winthrop who actually stood up at that forum all the way out in Waltham, made the pilgrimage to say accessing childcare, affording childcare is one of the biggest hurdles that we face. And Massachusetts has the highest costs for childcare in the state. So how we help families afford that, stay at work, go to business, be able to provide for their families is a critical piece of how we get the economy back on track. The first bill that I introduced was a bill to do just that, was to get families access to quality care for infants and toddlers. And I'm proud that we have a world-class elementary and secondary education. I'm also proud that that bill has broad bipartisan support, because I think that that is what we can no longer afford, to sit in our different corners in Congress and argue about every single point. We have to find those issues where we can come together. And we may not agree on everything, but let's work on some of the common points that we have. And one of those is offering a great start to education and college that is affordable for families that are middle and low income, for every student to have that opportunity. Second, I think that we have to focus on expanding capital for small business. I'm sure that all of you have experienced this. It is critical to moving our economy forward that we look at ways that we can increase access for small business to lending and to capital projects. Third, we have to invest in our infrastructure here at home and public transportation. I think one of the most disappointing things to see out of this Congress was kicking the highway bill down the road. Sorry for the bad pun so early in the morning, but this was an area where Congress never used to fight about funding for roads. Everybody understood that their community, urban, rural, desert or beautiful beach community, had a stake in this. And we have to get back to that and find a way to fund this that is not just passing it off till we get out of an election cycle, but to take it very seriously. Fourth, I think an economy that works for everyone means that people get equal pay for equal work. The first bill that I co-sponsored was the Paycheck Fairness Act. That meant when women are performing the same work, they get paid the same amount. It seems like a fundamental fairness, but it's something that Congress has not been able to address. And when women are doing well, families are doing well. And what I hear all over is not that people want to get wealthy. They want opportunity, and they want a chance for the rules to work for them and for them to be able to provide for their families in a way that continues what my grandmother did, where each generation has the opportunity to do better than the generation before. And this is a piece of it. And fifth and finally, I think we have to get Congress to start thinking again about the difference between spending and investing. And one of the things that we have really pulled back on the federal level is the National Institute of Health, the National Science Foundation research dollars. And here in Massachusetts, that is critical to our economy. And as a nation as a whole, what the work we do, especially in our congressional district around life sciences, finding cures for diseases, making sure that we are moving forward on alternative energy resources. All this research needs a partnership with the federal government. And we are the best in the world in Massachusetts at taking ideas out of the academic setting, out of the laboratory, and moving them into the marketplace. That has a ripple down effect, not only in our big life science companies, but in our small businesses. And we have to get Congress back. It has been always a priority of funding in Republican administrations as well as Democratic. And we have to get back to balancing our budget, living within our means, but also understanding that long-term investment keeps an innovation economy going. And what we're seeing now is internationally, and that's why we flew Paul's brother back from China to be here, China gets it. And China's making the investment in research in those companies, as is Brazil, Israel, Singapore, and if we continue to pull back on that, our status as an economy and a country that is a leading world economic power is truly in jeopardy. So one of the things that I have been fighting for in Congress is to start thinking about this difference, that all spending is not bad. And that what we have to do is say what is wasteful spending and what's investment in our future. Because if we don't start stepping up again, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we are not going to have the economy and the innovation that we need. I really want a chance to answer your questions, so I'm going to leave it with those points. But I want to just say, Massachusetts is so lucky to have a vibrant business community, and I am so lucky to get to work with a great legislative delegation, including the speaker, who now I promised my husband a Sunday without any politics. And I said, so we're going to go do the walk at the end of Winthrop. And so, of course, we run right into Bobby and Vicky. And it's like, okay, is there one day where we don't do any political things? But it is truly a pleasure to get to work with your delegation, with your small businesses, with leaders like Peter and the council members that we have here today and the chamber. And I hope that you will call on our office. We have Jen McAndrew here from our office, who is my business and economic development liaison. Anthony Maresci is also the Winthrop person from my team, who really focuses on the needs of the town. So I hope that my door is open. We want to hear from you. I hope I am successful today in the polls so that we can continue to build a relationship with Winthrop, because I'm very sincere in saying you have a truly unique business and community here that is really worth protecting and growing, and my office is here to help you do just that. So with that, I'd like to take some questions.
Anyone have questions for the Congresswoman? Yes, Paul.
Off the topic of commerce, but Our president seems to be waffling on what to do with the ISIS crisis.
Yeah.
Even some of his fellow Democrats seem to be turning against him on that. What's the feeling in Congress?
Well, so tomorrow I'll be back. We have been out for August recess, and I think that there is a great hesitation to involve American troops in Iraq, but I'm going to keep an open mind. I would like to hear what are our interests, what's our strategy, what are we going to define as success, and who are our international partners before we commit military troops to Iraq. Obviously, watching these horrible assassination of American journalists it is difficult not to have a reaction to that. And I think we have a very violent and threatening group in ISIS. But I also think that what I hear overwhelmingly, and I'd love your feedback on your opinion, as I go around our district, is that people are very, very hesitant to put our troops back in harm's way in Iraq, and that we don't want to proceed without strong international partners, and really how we're going to define success and what we're talking about. I think people are very, very wary of mission creep, going in to do one specific thing that turns into another decade of involvement in Iraq. And to watch our veterans who speak so eloquently about losing friends, the injuries they received, all to see it sort of unravel before their eyes. We have to have a clear strategy. So I'll be in DC tomorrow morning. We're going to be listening very closely to what the president has to say and what he has to lay out. I'm glad he's coming back to Congress, and I think that Congress needs to be part of the decision planning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Linda Samuels. Welcome to Winthrop. Thank you for coming here. My business is Billionaire Babies. I do academic tutoring, but I also teach financial wherewithal to young people. And so there's a lot of talk about small business and growing small businesses, but very little is actually being taught in schools in general about finance. And so I guess my question is, in all of these bills and the things that are happening at a federal level, are they addressing that issue in some way?
You know, there are some, but you know, really where I saw that work was on the state level, when we were trying to get financial literacy put back into Massachusetts schools, because I have 3 teenage boys, and I'm not sure they still don't think that ATMs are free money. And, you know, we need to really educate. Part of our education needs to be understanding finance, budgeting for a household, how credit works. It is a critical component. And there are so many, you're absolutely right, there are so many young people that you talk to who really do have that business idea and really have an entrepreneurial dream that they want, but how do we get them those building blocks? So it is certainly something I am hoping, asking to be on the Education Committee in Congress for the next term if I'm elected today. And I hope that that can be part of something that we can work, building off the model that we were working on in Massachusetts.
Welcome, and thank you for coming to Winthrop. We
Thank
had a great
you.
relationship with Congressman Markey's office prior to you taking office. Looking forward for that to continue. I'm glad you mentioned Jim as one of the people who we'll be dealing with on a regular basis. But Winthrop, as you know, is very unique, as you had the opportunity to walk through the town. And with casino possibly coming and some different factors that are going up around us, economically speaking, we really try to work hard to establish restaurants and future bed and breakfast and things like that, ferry service. We'd like to make sure that we continue that relationship with your office and that you can help us as much as you can, as the previous congressman has done. We're looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, the big shoes to fill from Ed Markey, literally, as well as, but I'm pretty tall too. And, you know, I'm sure lots of people say it, but Winthrop really is, I mean, it is unique. It does have an island mentality, and it is just such a beautiful spot. And when you go and, you have great coffee shops, you have awesome barbecue, you have a whole great Mexican food. I mean, you have a whole series of restaurants and attractions and golfing and all sorts of things that draw people here. I think that the beach redevelopment is going to be a huge factor, and how we can help with that, whether it's transportation, whether it's looking at finance. We want to make sure that Winthrop is in a place, if the casinos come, that is a benefit to Winthrop and does not end up being something that draws away from the community that you have built here. And it's a small community. It is also, right on the water. Environmental issues, addressing climate change is very real here, to preserve what you have physically. And I think that project is going to go a long way to helping with that. Really, I feel like I have this gem in my district, and I'm always torn between sharing that with people and not. But it really is it is a great community, and one that we are holding office hours here at the senior center, and we really do want to hear from all of you, because you're all local leaders, elected or, business leaders. So really look forward to that partnership and how we can help. Yeah.
Good morning and welcome. Your
Thanks.
thoughts on the minimum wage increase?
The state just voted to raise it. I know it is a huge concern for many small business owners, especially around teens. But I do support it. I do support what the package the speaker put together. I think that we have to watch how it goes. I know I've heard from many small businesses on both sides of the issue, but there certainly is concern specifically about teenagers. And, there were some proposals to carve them out, do something different so you can continue to offer that first job. And those weren't part of the final package, but I think we should continue to evaluate it and see, because I know that it is, it's, even though it's going up gradually, it's a burden. And so, we'll look forward to your feedback on it. Yep, Peter.
FEMA maps.
FEMA maps, yeah.
We in Winthrop have joined with Cape Cod to try to have the FEMA maps turned around
Yeah.
based upon the information that they use to draw the new FEMA maps. We see that the proposed FEMA maps could have a significant negative effect on our community.
Yes.
Our property values, and in fact, some of the properties that we currently have being occupied by families at some point with global warming, and the FEMA maps may be not saleable and not occupiable. So we need your help with the appeal of the FEMA maps, so that we can, basically our appeal takes us back to where we are now. 7 or 8 years ago, the maps were changed, and the appeal brought them back to where they used to be. So we're trying diligently to do that again, and we would appreciate your support.
Yeah, and you have had it and will continue to. This was an issue that came to my attention during the campaign, and certainly there are impacts for these FEMA maps in unusual places, but certainly for Winthrop and Revere, this is a huge issue. And we were successful earlier in the winter in putting off them coming into place, but we need to continue to push on this issue. And, it's very interesting to watch that the very congressional leaders who led the charge are now leading the charge in the appeal, because it just went too far. And it's really, people think about it, and they sort of picture big second homes, places. We all see those clips of Chatham where the house is falling into the ocean, and that's what they're picturing. And they're not picturing the reality of people in Winthrop and Revere, and what this means when you have those kinds of spiking insurance costs. And how are we really using the data properly to make these determinations. And I think they misfired, and it has real ramifications for those two communities and others that really can't even, I've heard from people in Malden too who said, when did I end up in a flood zone? I live on Squire Road. I don't understand how this is happening. So we really have to look at this. This is people's number one investment, is their house. And yes, I'm very serious about climate change, and I'm very serious about making sure that we protect our shoreline. But this is something we have to keep our eye on and be vigilant about, because it was poorly done.
Just one other comment on the FEMA. You mentioned the beach project, and really the major reason for the beach project
Right.
is shore protection.
Exactly.
And we feel very strongly that we should be able to appeal that area, because we've seen on the south end of the beach, we've seen a significant change on what always used to be flooded isn't anymore.
Yeah.
And so that shore protection thing should take care of all of this area as far as flood maps are concerned.
And I think that those type of projects, even though that one is, just, underway now, but even some of the historical work that you've done and that Revere have done just weren't accounted for in those FEMA maps. And we have to bring that to their attention, because it's very real, but that's going to offer very real protection. And sort of the secondary benefit is hopefully, even greater beach life and economic life for Winthrop. But the primary focus of that is protecting against flooding and erosion. So we have to make sure that that is accounted for in those maps.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Congresswoman, what is your stance on immigration reform? And if you were president, what would you do to stem the tide of illegal immigrants coming through Mexico?
Oh, wow. It's primary day and I'm already getting to be president. Well, I will tell you, I think that we need to be serious about immigration reform. And I think when you have an issue that has support of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the ACLU, Congress better get its act together. And it's been over a year since the Senate came up with a bipartisan compromise bill. It may not have everything that the far left or far right wants, but it is a good for business bill. And that's what we need to move forward on. And I believe very strongly in it. When I talked to, fairly recently, I talked to 3 immigrants who work at Pizza in Malden. They came here legally, they were sponsored, they are taxpayers, they work hard, they've bought homes, their kids are in schools, they have crossed every T, dotted every I in the immigration process. And they all had received deportation notices within the last 6 months for being unable to verify a cafe. For one of them, it was a cafe in Brazil that he worked at in 1988 as a very young man. And he said, this is not, Brazil doesn't have the same social security system where these cafes come up, they come down. When we have a system like that, it encourages undocumented and illegal immigration. When we make it so hard for people who are doing the right thing, they don't see the benefit to going through the legal channels. So we have to change that system and make it work. And I think we have to be very serious also about looking at what's going on in our policies to make sure that we are controlling our border. That's an important part of our national responsibility, but we have to reform this system. And if we reform the system in a meaningful way, it's going to be good for business, it's going to be good for our economy, and it's going to reward those people who go through the legal process, which frankly at this point, they don't see the benefit to them, when they watch people who are coming here not through the legal process, when they still, all of these guys had missed the funerals of their parents, they had missed family weddings, because they can't go back to their own town. It shouldn't take 12, 14 years for people who are going through every single part of the process. It just changes the whole system to one where there's immigration reform. So if I were president, I would adopt the bipartisan bill that came through Congress. And it came through the Senate, and the House just refuses to take up.
Any more questions? Well, thank you very much, Congresswoman.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
As a small token of our appreciation for the Congresswoman taking time out of her busy schedule to come here and attend our breakfast and be our guest speaker, I'd like to present you with a commemorative Chamber of
Thank
Commerce
you.
pin.
I like anything that says Winthrop on it. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.